What is up, my hybrid and utters? It is me. Oh, this isn't loading. There it goes. Hybridoe Vimeo, a hybrid utter. I'm doing my Project Hail Mary review, and this is going to be a review of both the book and the movie. So it's gonna at least reference both of them um, throughout this entire presentation. As always, I'm not doing any editing. I'm too lazy to do that. It's not happening. And what else? I think that was it. There is so I realized that there wasn't enough Swag Jesus references in my videos. So I messaged him last night and I said just for him I would do a Minecraft machinima if I got 3 likes and 3 comments by different people. So I can't have 2 pinks in the comments or pink on 2 different channels liking and commenting. So it has to be, like a Swag Jesus, a pink, and I don't know, whoever else. Or it could be Swag, and Swag could share it with his 18 bajillion closest friends and family. And then I'd have a bajillion views. Speaking of views, real quick, why do I have 50 views on my World War Z video? That's 2 hours long. Who's watching that shit? Who watches this shit? If you aren't Swag or anyone from the book club, like, why are you here? Get out of here. So that's it for at least my start. So yeah, again, I'm doing a Project Hail Mary review. It's middle of the night, so I should be fine. I shouldn't get accosted by anyone. So if it'll load, okay, cool. So what is Project Hail Mary, or what is it about? If you are someone that doesn't really know about this movie, about this book or story series, you might read the synopsis on like, I think this is on Goodreads. I'm not sure if it's consistent everywhere, but you might read the synopsis and think, wow, this is going to be like a really kind of dark, gritty, it might be a really serious. It's not a serious movie. It's really, really not. It does follow like a scientist, and a lone amnesiac scientist that's lost in space, but he does find out that he's on a mission to save the world, and on the way he does make a friend. But it does end up being a very the best way I can put it is like a buddy cop type book movie. It's a very upbeat movie. Throughout the book, there are a few, kind of like semi bleak, or serious moments, but I think those are relatively sparse, throughout the book or throughout the story. So, overall, it's a really upbeat book story. I'll probably keep referencing the book, but the movie's also really upbeat, I think. So I think the synopsis does a really sucky job at actually giving you what the tone of the book is, because it's definitely not this. So this is a complete lie. So moving on from that, would I recommend this book? I absolutely would. I do think overall it's a great book. I enjoyed it. I had a good time reading it. I think now looking back on it, I do have more problems than I did originally reading it, but I think still, even after a month, 2 months, it's still a good movie. Just good book. So recommended this as a book. Do I recommend it as a movie? Yes, I also do recommend it as a movie. It's the movie does a lot of. I think it assumes that you're familiar with the story, or you've read the book, and so it leaves a lot kind of unexplained or unanswered. I think it may reference a few things that happened in the book, or this might be a reason as to why this happened in the book, but overall, it's a good book. So your next question is, if I recommend the book, if I recommend the book and I recommend the movie, which one should you interact with? Or should you interact with, one or over the other? Should you interact with both? I would say, sure, why not? If you're someone, this one will be kind of weird. It says it in a way that assuming you're going to read both, excuse me, assuming that you're going to read both, but that is not, obviously, I'm not saying you need to read it this way or you need to read it that way or you interact with it that way. But I think generally if you want, oh my God, this is awful tonight. If you want to do it one way or the other, then just, if you're absolutely sure you want to interact with this, I would absolutely recommend reading the book. If you're like kind of iffy or unsure, I would probably say read the movie. Watch the movie. It's less. You put less into it. You're not paying you're not paying as much for the movie as you are with the book. And paying just means both actual money and time spent reading the book. So if you don't like time like watching the movie over reading the book, if you don't like the book and you already spent 60 hours, or it's not a 60-hour book, you already spent 4 or 5 hours reading it, and you end up not liking it. It's so but I think this kind of goes with it. If you're unsure if you really want to interact with this story, I would say watch the movie, and if you really like it, read the book. If you're someone that really, you absolutely you want to read, you want to read the story or know the story, and maybe you want to watch, but watch one. Oh my God, it's awful for this section. Hopefully it gets better. You want to watch the movie and read the book. I would recommend overall reading the book, then watching the movie. I know, at least for me, this might seem weird, but when I watched the movie, it kind of pissed me off a little bit. There was, again, a lot of things that were unexplained in the movie, and it kind of annoyed me. There was a couple other explanations the movie gave that I think did a better job than the book, but I mean, So before I talk about anything else, I'm just going to really talk about the biggest differences between the movie and the book. And then after, I'll give, what are the negatives of the book? What are the positives of the book? But the positive section, I know I'm doing this right now, but the positive section is a lot of just what I'm saying here. So if you're like, wow, you said 2 things for the positive section, just look back at this slide. This one will, this is also like a positive section. I just didn't want to, repeat what I'm saying here. So I think at first I'm going to talk about, what's the movie, the book did this better than the movie, and I'm going to talk about what the movie did better than the book. But I think even throughout, during my what the story did bad versus what the what it did good, I'll reference this more. But the movie does leave out, again, a lot of details and choices made. It leaves out a lot of details and why choices were made and why this and that happens. And it really did kind of piss me off reading, knowing the book, reading the book and then watching the movie. I can't speak. I'm sorry. This isn't gonna happen again. But yeah, that was one of the negatives that I found personally with the movie. But I think overall, most people don't have that problem with it. But the characters in the book, I think, are a lot. Obviously, you have more time. You have like 360 pages or so reading the book. So I think there's just a lot more you actually get out of each of the characters. You can definitely say a lot more and get each of the characters, I guess, you can get each of the characters' actual personalities better on the book than in the movie. And if you're someone that's, really iffy, or you've seen trailers and you're like, I really love Rocky, the book definitely has more Rocky in it. So I think there's a few interactions that were cut out or that were cut down in the movie as opposed to the book. But I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure about that. So another thing was that kind of, how the movie left out a lot of details and stuff. It also cuts out a lot of the science, and it kind of cuts down on how desperate humanity was and the extremes that they actually went to survive. The mission is obviously the same, but leading up to the mission, or the choices that they made, while the mission's going on, were, I think, probably the most interesting, at least to me, were the most interesting part of the book. But those were immediately cut out for, whatever reason. I think they could have extended the movie probably another 20-30 minutes, but they just decided, no, we're cutting it out. So that was something that was disappointing, but, So another thing that the movie does, which I personally didn't like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone else talk about this, but the first few chapters is seriously just Grace getting out of bed. it's getting out of bed and remembering at least what his name was and remembering how to speak. That was cut into like 5 minutes. I really liked that part of the movie, or that part of the book, and it just cut that out of the movie, or like cut it down to 5 minutes. So that was sad. I really did enjoy that part. It was disappointing. The movie, way more than the book, shows the character progression of Grace. The actual movie Grace does feel the movie Grace also feels way more like a person. How do I put this? Grace in the book, in the movie, and I guess less so the movie, does kind of just feel like what's his personality? A lot of Grace's personality, I think, at least in the book, is more of a, I'm not like other girls. That's seriously what he feels like in the book, and it's definitely less so when he's around someone else. But while he's by himself saying, whatever, or doing like a first person thing where it's just inner monologue, it's kind of fucking annoying having to hear him talk. I think at one point the guy's American in the book and in the movie, but I think at one point they mentioned something like, maybe it was the size of Rocky's ship when he first sees it, but he's like, oh my god, that's half a mile long. It's like, oh, it's so hard being an American scientist. Oh, I have to switch between imperial and metric. And it's like, no, the fuck you don't. I've never once experienced that where I'm like, oh man, what is this? Oh, I said it was 2 inches instead of 3 millimeters. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Oh, or centimeters. Oh, I'm such an idiot. It's like, it's stupid. He just seems like really quirky in the book more so than the movie. So the movie obviously did make him feel more like a person because there's not that shit in it. But the movie does show, actually, I think more obviously, more clearly, it just shows his character progression from going from a I don't even know if I should say this. He, at the start of the book, he's a coward. He's kind of a coward throughout the book, and at the end of the book, he does, become more kind of someone that would, help someone even if it hurt themselves. So I think the book or the movie does it way better than the book, but and then while I personally just like both the movie and the book ending, the movie does have a slightly better ending because it at least shows something. but you know. Also, real quick, something that the movie does better than the book is that the book characters, this was like an interplanetary kind of or national uh, organization. So there's not scientists, astronauts. There's astronauts from all over the world. So they have someone from like Russia, someone from China, you know, places, people from places all over, and a lot of those people in the book end up kind of just being stereotypes of the country, less so than in World War Z, um, but they do end up being kind of just stereotypes. The movie does do this better, I think. I don't think there's as much of a stereotype in the movie as in the book, but you know. So, so now I have a quick message from my sponsor. If you want to, I think this is like a 20-second video. I have not watched this, so this is gonna be the first time me watching this at all. I just decided to put it in the video, so we'll see, and we'll see if I want to blow my brains out afterwards. Oh my god, my sound's not on. I can't hear anything. Oh damn, it cuts off like that. Okay. Um, shit. I didn't expect it to cut off like that. Um, yeah. So if you couldn't tell, that was Pink. I didn't think it'd actually take that seriously. I thought it was gonna be like a shit post, but thank you, Pink. He wanted to do that. I didn't force him, so don't say it's slave labor. He volunteered, but yeah, thank you, Pink. He absolutely begged to be on this, so thank you to my sponsor, Pink Gaming 4331. I love you. Thanks for this picture too. It's very nice. You know what? That's the thumbnail. I have to screenshot that. So, moving on. What are my biggest problems with the story? So there will be spoilers later on in this. I'm sorry. I absolutely lost my train of thought. There will be spoilers later on. I will tell you when. It will be in bold, so it should be pretty obvious. And there are a bunch of stuff that I have not listed on the slide, but they will be stuff I mention, and I don't think there's stuff I'm going to be talking about much. So the first part is a lot of the engineering problems, or issues that seem extremely huge or just kind of piling on, are immediately non-issues with Rocky around. The movie handles it better, I think way better than the book, by just not discussing these at all. There is at one point a part where they're like an entire engine just gets a hole on the side, and all the astrophage is just shooting off, causing the rocket to spin out. And it's like a huge problem because it's like, oh my god, we have so very little fuel, and we are we are missing an engine block because, and this is going to cause us to, if we turn everything on, we're going to spin out and we're going to die. It's not something that we can have. And Rocky's immediately just goes, oh yeah, I can just make another engine block. Yeah, I have this material that you can just glue together, and I can just make another one. It's like, it seems really stupid, and there's no point in mentioning it if it can immediately get solved. So that was something that actually, while I was reading and afterwards, did make me very angry. But I did think the movie did way better by just not talking about it at all. They have that one scene where, they're both concussed, they can't move, and then it kind of just immediately skips past the engine block being made. So that was something. It doesn't really show it if it was worth it. After all, the story doesn't show, at least the book more so than the movie, doesn't show if it was all worth it, or the actual after effects of what humanity has done. This is something I will talk about a little more later, but they give you all of these things. The world, or the governments did this, and this to try to survive, and then you never see any of the after effects, or they say this is going to happen while you're gone. This is going to happen in the time we get the information, or this is going to happen in this period of time, and you never get to see any of it. So it's like, what the fuck is the point in actually mentioning it if we don't get to see it? I'm sorry, I'm trying to be quiet. My sister's connected by a vent, and I think she's trying to sleep, so I'm not gonna scream. Another thing that I had a problem with personally, I don't think this is, again, much of a problem for anyone else, and I don't think anyone else really mentions it. At the start of the book, or at the start of the movie, there is something called a Petrova line, which is just kind of, oh, here's where the astrophage are. You can see a little tunnel going to Venus. By the way, there's no visuals for this in the book, so I had an extremely hard time visualizing what the fuck this was looking like. So the movie, if you want to see what the Petrova line looks like, look at the movie. If you're reading the book, just look at the movie. The movie does a great job at actually showing you what it is, or what the hell the book is talking about, because I had no fucking clue what I imagined some different shape for whatever reason. If they just said it was like kind of a tunnel the astrophage goes to, that's something, but the book does a terrible fucking job at visuals. But at the beginning of the book, it's not really explored. And what's her name? Strat, I think. She just kind of says, "Oh yeah, the government's gave me power. Oh yeah, I can do whatever I want. Yeah, the government's just kind of do this. Yeah, the U.S., Russia, China, everyone, they just kind of do what I want." And it's like, I don't care if it's the end of the world. That's not fucking happening. They're not gonna work. They're not gonna work that well together and just have you do whatever they want. Especially in the book, they have the. I think she has the governments do some wild fucking shit, some completely wild stuff, and the government just gave her power, so it's fine. It's really stupid, I think. Yeah, I think the movie also mentions it. it's still really stupid. You know, they just gave one person power, one random. I think she's Norwegian. They just gave one random Norwegian person power, and then she's like, "Yeah, I get power." Yeah, I hate it. They don't have a committee of Americans, Chinese. It's stupid. It's stupid. Stupid. Um. So, I talked earlier about Dr. Grace, and I said he's kind of like quirky, just kind of for the fact of being quirky. Just because he can, he is quirky. But he also, at least in the book, I think more so in the book than in the movie, he has the emotional maturity of a fucking toddler. And there are there were multiple points in the book where I think you could give a 5-year-old the exact same knowledge as Dr. Grace, and he would probably act either the same, if not better, than how Dr. Grace acted. It was really, really, really kind of annoying. I swear to God, at one point he has like a complete tantrum, or a meltdown, and it was something I rolled my eyes at because it was hard to read through that. It's an adult acting like a child, and he kind of, at least on the spaceship with Rocky, it's not completely like that, but it does happen enough to where I think it is a problem or it's annoying. But yeah. Something I also had a problem with is at the start of the book, it's kind of mentioned that he got kicked out of the scientific community because he wrote a paper and published it. And by the way, to get a paper published, you have to have peer review that paper and then publish it. If you're getting it actually, the most popular journal is Nature. If you're getting a book or a paper published in Nature, you have to have people read over it and then edit, give their edits, have that person edit it, and then publish it back. Give it back, and then they'll say, "Hey, this is good." Nature will publish it. It takes peer review. This guy wrote a paper, which I think even nowadays, he wrote a paper talking about life without water. So I think he said acetone was as good of a solvent as water. It can do the exact same job as water, but I'm not sure in what scenario you'd have acetone over water, or an environment where you have a lot of acetone over water. Anyway, not the point. But he was able to write this paper, publish it, and then he got laughed at out of the community. So I think he lost his job or something, and he became a middle school science teacher. But I think even the science that you learn in middle school, I'm not sure what the fuck middle school he's at, where he needs to know, all the shit that he fucking spouts out in the book, or what the fuck he's reading, or what he does all day. But it's really kind of stupid that they, anyway, choose Dr. Grace, and then he becomes the smartest and most important scientist or person alive ever. I think it's really stupid. They could have changed what happened in his origin, or what happened before the book, and I think it would have been better. Just that part kind of made me mad. Now, I'm going to real quick cover some topics. I'm going to cover some topics without clicking further on the slides. These are just points that I noted, but I didn't really create a slide for. So, the book's humor and the jokes in the book, especially by Grace, were... I think they were like middle school level humor. It wasn't the funniest, and it was kind of something that you'd have a child laugh at. I think it was less so in the movie, but there are definitely some in the movie that had this. They were just not good. They really weren't. Sometimes it just felt like a child's adventure book with the amount of, with the jokes and humor. The humor fucking sucked. And I'm not gonna say all the humor sucked, but a lot of the humor with Dr. Grace just sucked. So yeah. Another thing is that in the book, not in the movie, in the book, Grace did show a level of intelligence that seems absolutely inhuman throughout. He's apparently just a well of knowledge in physics. A microbiologist being a well of knowledge in physics. I don't know what type of microbiology he's doing that he needs to know all that shit, or what type of middle school he's teaching that he needs to know all that physics. But it works for him apparently. But less so than that is that this guy learns a language, an alien language, within like 2 weeks. He originally, if you watch the movie, he has a translator, and he does do that in the book. But he also mentions in the book that he just kind of weans off it, and he stops using it completely. He just knows all the words, and it just makes no fucking sense. It really doesn't. Two weeks to learn a completely alien language. It is a miracle that they use the same grammar as us, or same grammar, or generally like the same kind of grammar structure. Because I swear to God, an alien language wouldn't develop that way. But at the beginning of the book, there was also some. I think this is something I'm going to mention later. Some of the science that was put at the beginning of the book just to show how smart Dr. Grace is, just kind of felt like it was just put out there. It was put out there solely for the fact, just to tell you how smart he is. It wasn't actually put there for a narrative reason, or wasn't important to the book overall. It was just kind of like a show. They just kind of felt like show-off moments more than anything. And it's like, if these don't do anything for the book, just remove them. It's just like a waste of time, I felt. And I did kind of touch on this earlier, but the reasoning why Dr. Grace was chosen in the first place was completely fucking stupid. And for whatever reason, he was at least in the... I want to say more so than in the movie than the book. It is a really stupid reason, or it is a really dumb, reason for having Dr. Grace be the only actual scientist near the project. Other than the two that were there, with him, he's the only other scientist there. And, they didn't get anyone else at all. No one. In the book, there's, I think, a better reason. I'm not sure. He's already like deeply entwined with the project by the time that the reason, he's still chosen for the mission is brought up. But it is stupid, just him being like the only one there, and the only one actually like near the, kind of the base of the project. I don't know. But the reasoning I feel was also really fucking stupid, because you have a bunch of, you have teams of scientists, brilliant scientists across the world. You can choose absolutely anyone. And you choose a middle school teacher that wrote a paper that he got laughed at years ago about life without water. And the reason they chose him was because they thought that astrophage was life without water. But this was like a theoretical paper years ago. Why not just get an actual scientist that is doing stuff, now, or in the, at least last few recent years to do it? I don't know. It was really stupid. I don't see a point. The other one was, I think in the book, they mentioned something like astrophage can only travel 8.5 light years away from where it originally spawned or originally started, which I want to say was Tau Ceti. I assume it's Tau Ceti since, you know, something's there. I'm trying not to spoil the story. I'm going to say it originated from Tau Ceti. I man, I think in the book they mentioned that it's already traveled to all the solar. If it, if they didn't mention this, and I'm just kind of speaking out my ass, don't listen to this. This may not be an actual critique, but I do believe that they mentioned that astrophage has kind of traveled as far as it can travel away. You know, it's not going to hit any more solar systems, and it's not going to do anything else. This is completely false because I think I saw a video, or that's a way to fucking say it. There, I think every solar system is like at like 4 to 5 light years away on average. If astrophage travels like 8.5 light years away, that's like 90% of the universe. 90% of the universe is gonna get fucking infected with astrophage. So, like, what's going on? I don't know. I think they do mention something like that, but if they don't, yeah, don't listen to me. No. This was actually a huge problem I had with the movie. Doesn't mention in the book. This guy has like a PhD in microbiology. I forget what exactly his degree is. He cannot balance a fucking centrifuge to save his life. If you saw the movie, you see him put two microcentrifuge tubes in a centrifuge. He puts them together. And you might say, oh, well, there's balancing centrifuges. There's actually balancing centrifuges. So it makes complete sense. Like, I don't care. I don't care that there's balancing centrifuges. It's wrong, first of all. It's on a morals, ethics-based approach. It is completely wrong and undefendable. Undefendable. You can't defend them. Second of all, that wasn't a self-balancing centrifuge, so fuck you. Fuck him loading that stupid centrifuge. Fuck that scene. The next part of this, and I guess it makes more sense in the context of the movie, but they had absolutely fucking nothing to jog their memory. The procedure that they underwent, where, you know, everyone's kind of there's something on the ship so that everyone, you know, isn't gonna fight, because apparently 80 days is the maximum you can have with people in, you know, extremely close contact without wanting to kill them. So this is a 3-year mission. They put everyone in a medically induced coma, and one of the side effects of the medically induced coma, at least in the book, is that you can become an amnesiac. So they have 3 people with the possibility of becoming an amnesiac, and they had nothing to jog their memory. They just kind of like strapped them to a table and said, do you remember your name? What's your name? Do you remember your name? Not, hey, here's a book. Hey, here's some very important things. Hope this jogs your memory. It's fucking stupid. These guys are supposed to save the world, and you don't give them anything to remember what the fuck they're doing? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I think that's it for all of the stuff that I didn't put notes on. So now I'm moving on to the ending. This will be a spoiler heavy thing. Although this does not ruin the book for me. If you do not want to get spoiled, you'll see, if you're looking at your video, you'll see this slide. When you see this slide, just know I am done talking about the ending. So if you want to skip spoilers, just skip ahead to this slide. So I'm going to start talking about the ending now. Again, spoiler warning. If you want to watch the movie, read the book, don't listen to this. But the ending absolutely fucking sucks. If you're if you're someone that watched the movie or read the book, it makes no fucking sense. I think it makes no fucking sense why Dr. Grace ended up where he did. So they have xenonite as a miracle substance. You know, you can glue it together, you can do absolutely fucking anything with it. And for whatever reason, in the book, I don't think in the movie it's explained, but in the book, it's explained that Talmiba can actually just crawl in between the molecules of xenonite to escape nitrogen. So it learns how to crawl in between xenonite, and then it could crawl all the way through it. Which it doesn't make any fucking sense. It's so stupid. It's such a contrived way of getting Dr. Grace not to go back to Earth. I swear to God, he only did it just so he wouldn't have to write what happened to Earth. Again, super duper super spoilers for at least the book. At the beginning of the book, or they mention a few things. They mention that there's going to be not at the beginning of the book, but towards like the middle part of the book, that there's going to be, wars over resources and all this stuff. There's going to be famine. A lot of people are going to die. A lot of ecosystems are going to die. Billions of people probably are going to be dead by the time he even gets this project done. By the time he sends his research back, billions of people or millions of people are going to be dead, and there's going to be a lot of wars, and there's going to be a lot of conflict. And I think the only reason why the author didn't want to send Grace back to Earth is so he didn't have to fucking write that. And another thing, in the book, I told you that there's a lot of desperation going on with the world. One of the things they do is to limit the amount of cold, to limit the how cold the world gets, is they actually just nuke the polar ice caps, to release all the CO2 and all that. They nuke the polar ice caps to release the CO2 so it warms up, so that gives them, a couple more buffer years before astrophage, goes to its maximum and dims the Earth, and then, creates a complete, ice coverage of the Earth, and, everyone dies and stuff. Why fucking bring that up? Like, it bring up all these interesting things, like, oh, we're gonna nuke the ice caps to make it hotter so we have more time. Oh, I'm probably gonna get jailed. Oh, I'm probably gonna, be in prison for the rest of my life for all the shit I've done just to give humanity a chance. And oh, humanity's gonna do this, and this. It means fucking nothing to me when you write about all this shit and you say, leave it up to your imagination. I'll let you figure that. It's fucking annoying. It's completely fucking stupid why he does that. Completely stupid. In an absolutely contrived fucking way. Talmiba can just crawl through xenonite? Yeah, give me a fucking break. Give me a fucking break. It was so stupid. And then... fuck. I do genuinely think that if they wanted him to do a sacrifice for someone, just so he's not a coward anymore, have him actually die. Have there be actual consequences, because there's no actual fucking consequences at the end of the book. There's none. Absolutely none. It is just, oh yeah, I risked my life to save you, Rocky. By the way, it's been however many years, and by the way, I'm also teaching a middle school class, and by the way, they also made a biosphere for me, and by the way, I'm just living here now with Rock. It's fuck off. It's stupid. It's so fucking stupid. It's fuck that. So, yeah. But hello everyone that skipped. Because I'm sure everyone skipped. Everyone that wants to interact with the story, read it, watch it. Everyone. So now we're going to move on to what the story does well. So again, this is going to be a very short section. I didn't want to retread on all the stuff that I've already said. So, so I think overall, The science is very good. At the very beginning, again, there's a couple of things that just kind of felt out of place. They didn't really do anything for the story, but the rest of it, it makes sense. I think overall, um, even though it's mostly physics, I think it's still very enjoyable. My only problem with it was that there's very little, if any, microbiology. I picked up this book thinking that, hey, it's a problem with a bacteria. There's a bacteria that's causing a problem. We need to figure out a solution. So I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of microbiology in this. I have a microbiology background. Microbiology interests me. There's none. So that's sad. There's another book that I've been wanting to read that my book club hasn't picked. Yeah. There's no microbiology. I want microbiology. They do mention, although something I thought it was cool, that they do at least hint at panspermia event, which is just kind of like, oh, everything in the universe, all life in the universe kind of originated from one spot, and which I believe just kind of like insinuated, possibly, to be Tau Ceti. There's a couple of reasons. If you just listen to my rant, I didn't say it outright, but there's, if you think about it, if you watch the movie, read the book, listen to what I said, and think about it, or just look it up, you might know what I'm talking about. But they do mention in the book, they don't mention it in the movie, that a lot of the same structures and that are found in like mammals and bacteria. Actually, I don't think those were in bacteria. I think they mentioned that there's mitochondria, which some bacteria, prokaryotes, don't really have. But there are a bunch of structures that are apparent. I know ATP was one of them, which is energy. That astrophage has, that's similar to us. So I think there's at least a reference to panspermia, but it's nothing that's ever mentioned in the book. Oh my goodness. There was one thing I didn't mention that I want to say going back. Another one of the negatives that I failed to mention was that Dr. Grace is like the only important scientist in the world. They send him to the Astrophage Project, and he's like the only one that actually discovers anything. I think there's someone that confirms results in the movie, and there might be another person in the book that does something else, but those are like meaningless and compared to what Grace finds out. He finds fucking everything out about it, and it's really stupid. It doesn't feel like a worldwide, a whole bunch of scientists across the world are doing this. It feels like Dr. Grace and maybe someone else does it. So anyway, that's something that was kind of annoying. But yeah, going back to things I liked, and again, if you I only have two things here, but if you go back and see the differences between the book and the movie, both of them do have their positives, and I do think generally all of them are positive. All of those parts are good. So I just don't want to repeat, what's exactly being said over there. So if you're like, wow, you have so many complaints and only two things that the story did well, go back. Fuck you, go back. So the final thing I really have to say about this book is that overall, most characters are written well and are likable. Again, Dr. Grace, iffy, especially in certain places. But there are two characters that I found fucking insufferable, and it was kind of going back to that like middle schooler humor type thing. They are genuinely fucking awful. They're terribly written. They're in the movie. They're done better because you don't really see them. Right? I don't remember them having any serious scenes in the book or in the movie. But they got blown up. They got what they deserved. I'm glad they died. It should have been sooner. They really should have died sooner because I didn't like them at all. Moving on. So where do I rank this? This is a very, oh my god, it's 50 minutes. Um, I thought this was a short one. So I think I have 3 books: World War Z, House of Leaves, Project Hail Mary. Before I actually rank these 3, um, real quick, I just want to say, if you ever hear someone say this book is a 10 out of 10, or this series is a 10 out of 10, it was perfect, there's no problems with it, oh my god, the positives of the book, and there's no negatives, it's a perfect book. They're talking straight out of their fucking ass. If I hope I didn't say this during the House of Leaves review, but I don't think there's any perfect series. There's always a problem with the book, or with something, with the story. These are examples of them. They're good books, but if you ever hear someone say Project Hail Mary, that's a 5 out of 5 book, that's a 10 out of 10, it's so funny. They're talking out of their fucking ass. Like, give me a fucking break. I think if you ever hear someone say something like that, immediately bash their skull in. Is what I can best say. So, I think real quick before I actually start ranking these, and another tangent, if you have read this book, or if you have watched the movie and you're like, it's not quite, what I'm looking for. It's not. It's there's not enough science in the movie, or it's too upbeat. I do think there are. I have one recommendation for book and movie that I do think are, at least to me, they are better. For movies, I did like The Martian. It's also written by the same author. At least the novel was. But I do think that there's more science in the Martian movie. So if that's something that you want, and I think it's overall less humorous, but the humor is kind of still much the same. I didn't have a hard time watching The Martian most of the time, but yeah, I less like shaking my head, hiding behind my fucking hand, watching The Martian than I did watching Project Hail Mary. Because I took my sister to this movie, and there's a few moments where I just had to hide my face because I'm like, this shit's so fucking ass. But that was only a few scenes. And then another one, for a book, I do genuinely think that this is a good book. It's not the best thing I've ever written. It's not the best thing I've ever read. There is another book that I read a few years back that I really did enjoy. It was called The Andromeda Strain. It was written in like 1969, so it may be a product of its time. I know the science certainly is, but if you want something that's less upbeat, that's less humorous, this takes kind of a similar premise where a whole bunch of people die, or this could be something that's very different. This is a bacteria or a microbe from outer space that can cause worldwide harm. The Andromeda Strain, I think, takes itself way more seriously. I do think it's a better book overall, but to each their own. I do need to read that again, so one day. But out of all 3, World War Z, House of Leaves, Project Hail Mary, there's 3 books, 3 spots. What's number 1? Number 1 for me, House of Leaves. I do think certainly in some places it's a slog to read, absolutely, with Johnny talking about how much he wants to fuck these like 18 bajillion ladies. It's really that's annoying. Sometimes Impano's prose or style of writing really annoying. But overall, for me, House of Leaves was a way more enjoyable book than Project Hail Mary, and I did actually find myself resonating, I guess, with the story or with the characters more than I did Project Hail Mary. On that note, number 2, Project Hail Mary. This again, this might actually drop down the list as I go through the books I've already read. But this was a good book. I'm not going to say that it wasn't. I did like it, even though my like section was so much shorter. But if you've listened to me and you're still thinking that, fuck you. Project Hail Mary, sorry for hitting my desk. Project Hail Mary, I think great book. There's definitely a few problems, and the author's writing style or his humor is kind of bad, but overall, good book. Good story. I liked it. More microbiology, please. And so, 3 books, 3 spots. Obviously, we got to put World War Z at number 11. Not going in my top 10. Fuck World War Z. So, final thing before I end off. Real quick, I just want to remind you, I need 3 likes and 3 comments by different people, so no 2 pinks. To make a Minecraft machinima that I wrote overnight. That's probably like 20 or 30 minutes, maybe, possibly. I don't know. We'll see. I love you. Bye.